the sin of riba. It is by far the most underestimated of the 7 destructive sins, of the mubiqat. Zina is very obvious, adultery and murder and stealing. And you think about these types of sins and you think horrible. But the Prophet ﷺ mentions that 1 dirham, a penny of interest, is more grievous in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than adultery with a family member, than incest. So if someone sees that someone's engaging in riba or someone's engaging, no big deal. But the way we shun zina or adultery or murder or alcohol, these other prohibitions, right? There's a problem here. And we have to ask ourselves, why are some sins normalized to us and others not? And don't claim that it's Islam. Why are some sins more disgusting to us and abhorrent to us than not? Why would riba be worse than zina? Why would riba be worse than adultery? And Imam al-Baghawi rahimahullah said on a societal level, he said, when the economy collapses, when the poor become poorer and the rich become richer, he said the rich become more prone to zina and alcohol and corruption and lust, and the poor become more likely to dwell in their sorrow in those very same sins. Isn't that interesting? The rich indulge in more fahisha, the poor indulge in more fahisha. Fahisha are the shameless sins. The rich because of access, the poor because of sorrow and depression. So they're likely to find, their escape, in that brown paper bag, the cheap alcohol in the brown paper bag, whereas the rich are likely to find their joy in an expensive bottle of vodka. But he said that the collapse of inequity that riba causes forces people into those directions anyway. So subhanAllah, I thought that was a very powerful way to address this, that it pushes people in the direction of all of those sins. He also said because people don't take riba, or some of the scholars mentioned, they don't take it seriously. They don't take riba as seriously as we just mentioned, which is very obvious to us. And also the scholars mentioned because riba hurts and harms at a much greater scope than the other sin. So riba causes more societal harm than those other sins that are likely to really just shame a person's self. You're contributing to a system that continues to impoverish and continues to lead people to a very bad place. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also mentions, if you look towards, and it's the sequence, if you look at the end of Surah Al-Baqarah, 2nd chapter of the Quran, there's a verse of charity, a verse of riba, a verse of charity, a verse of riba, a verse of charity, a verse of riba. So Allah is drawing a contrast between people who spend in charity and people who deplete others through the practice of usury. If the system is functioning properly, where a person that cannot afford education has people that are spending on them anyway, where the system is built in a way to take care of those who would typically need to resort to an unfavorable contract, Allah destroys riba and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increases charity. A system can survive without riba. A system cannot survive with riba. The global economic collapses. Look at what the cause is, because we're constantly building upon this bubble, and then eventually the bubble pops because it's imaginary money. It's not really there. A system that is laced with riba is a system that's meant to fail over and over and over again. It's a system that will lead to bitterness, and that will lead to poverty, and that leads to great economic disparity and all types of things. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, يَمْحَقُ اللَّهُ riba. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroys riba.
And enact legislation to support the agenda. It's coming from one part of the world and it's spreading to the rest of the world. And as it spreads to the rest of the world, the area of the world that Naipaul called the area of darkness, but it's a different darkness now, it's spreading. And so the area earmarked for destruction in the Great War is increasing. But destruction and war with Allah comes for other reasons as well. Let me give one more and we'll end it. All through religious history, mankind has been warned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala against lending money on interest, riba. It came down in the Torah to Nabi Musa alayhi salam, the prohibition of riba. It came down to Nabi Dawood and Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salam in Holy Israel. It came down to Nabi Isa alayhi salam. It didn't come down for the first time with us. No. It came down for the last time with us. The prohibition of riba. What is the prohibition of riba? Riba is not only borrowing and lending money on interest, and I hope the government of Pakistan would have a little time to listen to my lecture. Riba is not only borrowing and lending money on interest, but riba is also transactions based on deception, which yield a gain or a profit to which one is not justly entitled, a rip-off. And while we do not have the time to explain it now, we can do it later. The greatest rip-off that has ever occurred, and is still occurring, since Adam alayhi salam set foot on earth, is the rip-off taking place, and which has been taking place in the monetary system. They took gold and silver coins out of the market. They made it haram to use gold as money. That's in the Articles of Agreement of the International Monetary Fund. And then they replaced it with bogus and fraudulent and utterly haram paper money and plastic money and electronic money and cryptocurrencies and so on. And I'm not talking through my hat, because I've studied my subject. That also is riba. And in the very last revelation to come down in the Quran, Allah declared war, yes, war, on riba. That if you do not give it up, take notice of a declaration of war from Allah and His Messenger.